This is my first time to a Canvas camp, and I'm super excited to be here. And our objectives today is to dive into the Canvas data portal and to kind of talk about our process that we went through in selecting Canvas and in changing instruction. And so we want to show that the use of data should really impact our teachers' professional development and our student learning. And with Canvas, you own your data. And with that, you have a lot of opportunities to be able to really look at some metrics that can help improve instruction. And we're going to go through our stage. So where we started with is, what is it going to take to improve education for students and for staff? This was our leading question that guided all of our decisions along the way. We started here even before selecting Canvas as a learning management in our K-12 school district. And we came up with some initial targets. Right, we wanted to be able to increase the amount of time that students spent with their teachers. We wanted to motivate them to take control of their own learning, to really own that process. We also wanted to speed up the feedback loop, right? We wanted to be able to get that teacher feedback to the student quicker, almost real time when possible. Obviously, we knew we had to come up with a solution that was more virtual, and we wanted to make it more personalized. And so we came up with a number of issues that we had to overcome, the largest of which is that the amount of data that schools have up until now has really been transactional data. This information lives in your SIS systems, your finance systems, you've got your state data collection systems that did some reporting. All of these have been transactional, but now we're seeing rapid growth in these online solutions. Each of these tools have their own data set. Some of them are their own little learning management system. They've got various sources for personalized learning. They all have their own features that kind of want to contain you. Some of them allow you to get data in and out. Some of them don't. And so up until now, we've kind of struggled to get to that raw data that we need. With Canvas, that's not the case. But other issues that we've had is, if we get that raw data, what do we do with it? And that's why you're here today. What do we do with that raw data? Where can we keep it? Where can we store it? Another challenge that we have is people. In our organization, we've really gone through a shift where one administrator can really slow down your entire process. One administrator at any level, right, can kill your innovation along the way. And so, do we have the right people in the right place? Your organizational structure, right? When we're looking at student performance, all of these departments, you probably have various names for the same things in your organization. Any single person in one of those roles can really cause your initiative to die or grow on the vine. And so we're going to go through some of our processes and how to really build that structure that has helped us focus on data and trying to overcome those challenges. So our path to success started with changing the delivery method. In our school district, we've really focused on blended learning. In Texas, they had a $5 million grant come out that was put on by the owners of H-E-B, the grocery store chain. If you've ever been in Texas, you love that grocery store chain. We also wanted to identify other pathways of learning for our students and for our teachers, and then the data collection and reporting. And where we landed was on this book by Heather Staker for blended learning. If you're not familiar with the definition of blended learning, it's not just using an iPad to take a worksheet, right? That's just substituting technology to do something you did before. But it really involves, I'll let you read that definition. I'm not going to go through it for you in full detail. We'll have these slides online. But blended learning is where a student has some part of their learning online, where they have control over when they take that assignment or when they do that work. Some of it happens in a brick and mortar building, right? So some of their learning does still have to happen in a classroom with an instructor. And that the student has control over their learning experience. And so we've been able to use this book and this process to help everybody in our organization be aligned to those goals. And we landed on the Canvas data portal to really help us pull out some metrics and be able to identify ways to help people get access to that information faster. We've had to get the right people in the right places, and it's required combining our data with Canvas, with all of these personalized learning systems to really improve learning. And this applies whether it's student learning in a classroom or your teachers and staff with student development and professional development. And I'm going to turn it over to Mike Charlin, our enterprise manager of enterprise systems, and let him dig into this further for you and show some examples.
Okay, let's kind of take a little, there we go. I'll try and keep it down. Do we have any higher ed folks here? Oh my gosh, okay. What about K-12 folks? We have any techies, technical side, data heads? Okay, good deal. Teachers? Digital learning people? Okay, good. Well, after digging into the Canvas data portal, I'm probably going to disappoint some of you. I'm probably going to discourage some of you. But in the end, what I want to get to is to plant some seeds that you can take back to your institutions to start to examine how you can restructure the process of teaching and learning through the use of Canvas, through the use of data collection and reporting, and some of the things that you're probably going to need if you don't have. How many people know whether their institution has a data warehouse or not? Okay, that's pretty good. So, I've been in education. I am the education side of the data. I run a data team. Dave's my boss. So while he's in here, I won't say anything bad about him. We have 2 senior developers on our team. We have 3 junior developers on our team. Out of those 5 people, 4 of them are brand new. We had a bunch of retirements, about 90 years worth of experience walked out the door. We manage academic accounts, so pieces of software that need us to pass data as far as student account information to them. We started with 4 accounts 2-3 years ago. Then we jumped up to like 16. Now we're at 68, I believe. And so we basically have one person that's in charge of just that process. I've been involved with data collection and reporting on the academic side of the house for 8 years now, starting in Branson, Missouri. I've been a principal, K-5 principal. I've taught at the elementary level, the middle school. I've been an AP. I've taught special ed for 10 years. And I've also been an interventionist. Unfortunately, it was with kindergartners, and that's like herding cats. Very enjoyable, but I don't know how much progress I made. So I have a lot of experience on how to create data reports that are meaningful to teachers. Our goal, and I'm not talking bad about administrators, but they're like on the last of my list, right? I want to provide meaningful, as close to real time as possible, data reports to the teachers and the students. We're going to get to the point where our students are going to be able to log in to our data warehouse, and they're going to be able to see not just their grades, it's contained in their student information system. They're going to be able to see all their test scores. They're going to be able to see any piece of personalized learning software that they're working in, any of that data that we can extract. That's going to be mashed together with all of that. They're going to be able to look at all that and track their performance. So that's kind of where we're headed. There'll be some things about the data tables we'll get into a little later as we step through this. So in the last, probably, when I first started into the data collection reporting in Branson, They were literally doing it by Word docs that were shared. So I stepped in and we did spreadsheets. Then we found some things to make that a little easier. We stayed on spreadsheets for a while, but what has happened is on the academic side of the house, there has not been a way to really manage the act of teaching and learning and then suck that information out of that process so that people can realistically talk about what's going on unless they've actually physically visited that classroom, right? So Canvas came along. We went and looked at Canvas. First question I asked them, can I get all of the data out? They said yes. Little did I know that we needed somebody that could write APIs on staff to be able to do that. Out of my developers, nobody knows how to do that yet, but that's on our list. So luckily they came up with the Canvas data portal. It's going to solve a lot of my problems, at least for a year or so. But there's been a tremendous increase in the capabilities of technology as it applies to the academic side of the house. HR and finance, we've always had to manage those. They've always had systems in place that have produced reports. The academic side of the house has always been lacking. Now with the data portal, it allows us to build reports, like I said, and if you have the right apparatus, you can push those reports out to the end user. Because of my educational background, I believe in looking at what's going on, what has to happen. Like if curriculum instruction has something they're going to start incorporating, right? Say it's some literacy model. I need to know about that model. I need to know about the intent. I need to know about the variables. And then I will backward chain that all the way into Canvas to get it set up appropriately. So when that data comes out, I can build the appropriate report. One of the ways that we're going to do that is by identifying learning pathways. Learning pathways is the process that we want kids and teachers, staff to go through on their development continuum. It'll be for both teachers and students. There's a couple different pathways. Descriptive, that means that the learner has some options as they're going down whatever path they choose. Prescriptive, I'm a prescriptive person. When we hire teachers out of college, we put them in the classroom, we stamp them good to go. That's not the reality. They don't know enough yet to know what they need, so they need more of a prescriptive approach. We could do a combination of both. The system that we're building is about proving competency. To date, teacher improvement is based on student performance. So we spend time teaching kids. We take them, set them down, giving them assessment. They perform on that assessment. They come back, we look at it, and then we make decisions about how good a particular teacher is based on those scores. The problem is there are so many variables in that situation that we have no control over. As an example of a student learning pathway, I'm going to show you quickly the graduation types of Texas. We told you we're from Texas, right? Anybody here from Texas? Right. Hallelujah. There's a bumper sticker we saw that says that I wasn't born in Texas, but I got there as quickly as I could. I've been there 2 years this month. I love it. I love it. It's everything you hear about, just so you know. It could be its own country, okay? So just the basic graduation in Texas is called a foundation degree. That's it, right? Bare minimum. Then you can have foundation with endorsements. You can attain a distinguished level of achievement, or you can get performance acknowledgments. When I was in school, I lived right at the edge of this. Right at the edge of foundation, bare minimum. What we're going to do is we're going to drill down into the endorsements. So there's a number of endorsements: STEM, business and industry, public service, multidisciplinary, arts and humanities. So say a student wants to graduate with an endorsement in engineering. This is the path, this is the learning path that we're going to build within Canvas that's going to be exported into our data warehouse, that we're going to start tracking student, and I'll tell you the areas that we're going to track them in. But in 7th grade, they have to start with pre-AP Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, Pre-Calc, AP Calc, AP Calc BC. That's their learning pathway. When I don't spend a lot of time in this kind of stuff in what we're doing right now. So when I first started building this presentation, I looked at this and I thought, oh my gosh, I just can't, 7th graders, pre-algebra is amazing. From a data standpoint, from a curricular standpoint, I found this interesting. We have Algebra 1 in 7th grade, and then we stop and take geometry, right? Then we have to back up and take Algebra 2. Now, I taught math, 7th grade math. I was math department head. I'm not a math person. They put me there to clean out the math department, which was not very nice of them. But that does not make sense to me. What we lose here, you get kids up to a certain level, then there's an entire year that they don't interact with those concepts. What a lot of schools do is they'll look at this year's current students. They'll look at the deficits, and then they'll start program design. And that you can't do that. What they need to do, they need to do that to evaluate their curriculum and their content, but they need to look at their incoming students for those holes so that they can fill them when they get there. The problem with this setup is that you have a year. So I'm thinking a lot of teachers that teach pre-AP Algebra 2 spend a good portion of their time covering topics in Algebra 1. So the data reports that we will be building will show the discrepancies in your current year. It will then show you current students coming into your course and the outcomes that they're deficient in, that you need to target, so that you can get right to work targeting them. I'm going to show you an example about teacher development. When I think about what it takes to be a good teacher, I kind of boil it down into 4 areas. Feel free to disagree with me. You got to have some sort of brain power. You have to have a decent personality and character. You have to be able to get along with people. There's specific traits that we could talk about, but we don't have time. Content knowledge. You have to know the subject matter. And then you have to have a certain amount of instructional capacity, right? This is about building instructional capacity and content knowledge. So if we take those 4 areas and we put them on a gradient, intelligence, personality, character, instructional capacity, and content knowledge, we can't really affect the 2 on the left, right? So we need to hire right. But instructional capacity and content knowledge, we can get through designing appropriate learning pathways for staff through the professional development in Canvas. When you're hitting on all cylinders, what you're doing is you're increasing the capability of the teachers to have great situational awareness, right? being able to sit down with a student and understand that, hey, I got a situation here. They're not in their zone of proximal development. I got to make an intervention to move them on up their continuum. So, how can we maximize teacher development using Canvas and the data portal? And there's another piece of software I'll talk about. We all know that the current method of professional development just doesn't cut it. I started teaching in 1988, and they were talking about this same problem back then. Everybody understands that learning is a process, it's not an event. It doesn't just happen. You don't just arrive one day, and then you're good to go. It's a process that's going to take place your entire career. Here's an example of a learning pathway for a teacher for an elementary reading, setting up a balanced literacy classroom. So what we would do, C and I would come over and say, okay, this is what we're instituting. I would help them break this apart into a Canvas course or courses. And we would start stepping through it like this. We would take one component like guided reading, have our Canvas coursework, final assignment. We would tie in the current structure that a lot of school districts already have in place, but they have no way to assess the reality of what's going on. I would do that through observations with the instructional coach by way of filling out a rubric, getting the eyes on the target. So they would dump that rubric into Canvas. And I'll tell you the disconnect with Canvas here in a second. If I was the boss of the world, I would make the principals do the same thing. This is where the initial proof of competency comes in. So this teacher goes through this process. You have eyes on your target through your instructional coach, your principals, somebody else, a peer teacher that's already been at that level, come in, fill out the rubrics. Those are in Canvas. And now how do we measure it? So our system, we use Skyward as our student information system. We use Munis as our HR and finance system. We have our Canvas and its data portal. And now we use Badger. Badger is a badging system. Is everybody familiar with Badger? Okay. Canvas has their own badges. We looked at that. Jared Ward is in charge of that. We just chose to go with Badger, and I'll talk about that, how that's set up in a second. And then we have our other personalized learning software. So I was in a meeting the other day with C&I group and a software company called Apex Learning. Anybody that has to deal with software companies realizes that when you start talking about data, they say, oh, no, don't worry about it. We have our own reporting structure. All a teacher has to do is go there, a principal can pull up, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so remember I said we had 65? Now, what if a principal of a high school that has a ton of teachers, maybe they use 20 of them? Is that principal going to have to get into 20 different pieces of software to find information about how so-and-so's doing? And then that information is not connected to the Canvas data portal. So there's no way to mash that information together for people. That goes into our data warehouse. Our data warehouse is called Pulse. It's a Tyler Technologies product. I've worked in that product for 4 years in Branson and then 2 years at Birdville. It's not visually dynamic. It is inexpensive, and it's a SQL-based, and we can dump virtually any type of data into it that we want. and then we query off that. What I like about it is they will build reporting modules for us, but we can also go in and build our own so that we don't have to wait on them. They don't charge us. It's just really, it has its own permission structure embedded. So when I build a report all the way down to a student's information, when a teacher looks at that, they see only the students in their classes. When an administrator logs in, they only see the teachers and students in their building. The tables behind that, though, contain all the information across the district. So we have student and staff program reports that we will build, pulling from all those separate entities. And notice I said program. It's also about measuring the efficacy of your programs. If you have an RTI intervention system, how do you know it's really working, right? We got to pull that information over. So some of the data points that we pull from our SIS, we do nightly uploads. We pull student and demographic, course section information, teacher, other user account information. Other user account information, what we did, we don't enroll students into an intervention. So we went into our Skyward and created a course, and we assigned interventionists to that course. We don't enroll students in that course. We export that into Canvas, so that teacher now, that interventionist now has their own intervention course. Our data warehouse has the ability to act as a data entry. You can build data entry tables. We're going to use that as the enrollment piece. So when an interventionist gets their students assigned to them, they'll go in and put their staff ID assigned to that student record. We push that, we mash that with our SIS export, and we push that into Canvas so that when that teacher logs into their Canvas instance, all those students that they're supposed to have in that intervention are listed. We then will pull that student information out of the data portal and push that into our reports. That gives us a way to take attendance in RTI and also collect progress monitoring, which to date we haven't been able to do. Most RTI programs that you look at, you can go to one student and it's drill down, drill down, drill down. So this way they have access, plus we can take the information out and get it in the data portal. We pull staff demographic information, finance information. We'll do return on investment reports, student performance information. We have Renaissance Place. We pull student performance information. A lot of this gets mashed with the Canvas data portal information to push out into reports. And then our Canvas data reports, we're going to start with student performance information only. Usage data will come later. Badger. This is where we are going to be able to track the learning pathways. Badger is coming out with a piece that you can go in your Canvas courses and you can assign it a pathway. So that engineering pathway, those will be a pathway within Badger. We will build badges. They'll be set out. Students can earn badges, but then on the back end, we'll do a data pool from Badger, and we will take the Canvas data, match it to that learning pathway that was built in Badger. That saves me a lot of time in building a lot of other tables that don't exist. So it will be a user interface to build the pathway, and then we'll pull the raw data out of the back end. Nate Otto is the guy that we work with out of Badger. The other piece will be formal and informal badges. I wanted a way to create badges that once I created them, assigned them to a learning process, they couldn't be edited. That's coming out sometime in the fall, I believe. So we're going to approach this in 2 stages. We're going to live, as stage 1, we're going to live in these tables: enrollment table, assignment table, quiz. Pseudonym will pull because of the staff IDs. They live in that table, so we'll pull that to match that to the IDs that we push into other pieces of software, and of course the quiz. After we get through the first stage, then we'll go to stage 2, which will be more usage data. Usage data is going to depict a higher level of use in Canvas, and we're just not there yet, right? So there's no sense to spend a lot of time digging through those tables and putting those together. We'll pull the discussion. I think it's important as teachers build classes and assignments that they elicit, they build discussion topics and elicit student comments in their assignments so that then we can pull those and we can look at those teachers that are very, very successful and see what kind of comments those kids are writing, how they feel about what they've learned and what they've done. We will have a video platform. By that time, we'll pull usage data from that, groups, conversation, and external tool use. So again, we're gonna live in stage 1 initially. It's going to take us a number of months to build those tables out. Then we'll move. I need to stay ahead of what CNI needs. And so we'll have things in process before they're needed. So Canvas Data Portal example, we'll pull course names, enrollments, staff as student names from the pseudo table, rubric scores. Now here's the catch. I need access to rubric scores, and guess what? They're not in Canvas Data yet. The reason they're not in Canvas Data is because they're revamping the outcomes. In the world of K-12 education, outcomes have been extremely important the last number of years, and they're just gaining. We need access to that data, and they're not there yet. I don't have an idea when they'll be there, but in Badger, we'll gauge the staff who have reached competency levels, staff who are beyond the initial competency level, and staff who are at each of the pre-competency levels. We'll take those, we'll combine those with the student performance data, and that will enable us, through our reporting structure, to look at our professional development program, how successful it is. That'll help in our PD planning. We'll be able to tell what's needed, what direction we need to go, number of people, who's training, number of instructors. We will match the student performance level to the teacher development level. So those teachers that are at the initial part of their learning path, we want to look at those student scores together as a filtered group. And we want to start seeing where our rocket scientists are. We want to look at their coaching structure so that we can tell whether that coach is being effective or not, whether that digital learning specialist is in there helping with what needs to be done. Then we'll also look at student performance compared to program effectiveness. Are your kids in RTI, in gifted and talented? Are they being successful? It's all about building a value-added model. These are the assessment types that we will put together, our curriculum-based assessments, our campus assessments, teacher assessments, personalized learning assessment and data. Of course, we'll include grades, state assessments, and students will have access to all of their data through the data warehouse. I'm going to take a brief second because we're about done. These are the people that we've worked with at Instructure. Very, very helpful. If you're new to Canvas, the people we worked with, I can't say enough good things about. There's Nate Otto from Badger. Concentric Sky is the name of the company. And again, Jared Ward Jared, you're still doing the Canvas badges? Yeah? Here's Jared. Great, great guy. Can't say enough good things about these people. So some resources that you need to make sure, if you haven't already looked at them, you need to look at them. The Canvas Data Welcome Kit pretty much has it all through. This down here, Matt Smith, he's a data engineer for Canvas. He's going to do a webinar, and I'm not sure how we're going to get the information out, but he'll go over the table structure with people. So if you really want to start digging into that table structure, then I would strongly suggest that you try and attend that webinar. If not, watch it recorded. This community, I encourage everybody to sign up for this community. We will start, as we get things built, I will post queries onto that community. I will give you snippets, examples of reports, what they look like, of course without any names. We will help you however we can, because I'm telling you, how many people have looked at the tables? Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's tough, but we're going to help. And while I'm thinking about it, those tables, let me go back. Matt yesterday talked about changing the structure of those tables. Instead of having dimension and fact all being on one, that will help if you go to adopt a data warehouse for reports. It'll help them build those reports. I haven't done anything with this school data work Twitter feed, but I will make announcements as soon as we post things. Feel free to contact Dave or myself if you have specific questions, and we will answer them, or we will point you to people that can. I would like to create a system where people that are at different levels can get help from anybody else that has already been through what they've done, so that we can break down the learning curve. Okay, any brief questions? I piled a lot in. Anything? We have 25,000 students, about 2,500 teachers. Scale is difficult.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.